I would say if
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's work. This week we'll be talking about the IRB, the Institutional Review Board process. And just to give you a little orientation, the reason we do IRBs when we're conducting most research is that we want to ensure that the participants who are involved in our study are protected and are not harmed. So there's the whole confidentiality piece, and you'll see that as you walk through the IRB application. So what we want you to do this week is to spend a good deal of time really exploring the Augsburg IRB website. And if you look here, I've got just the history or the Institutional Review Board site pulled up here. Read through that and just look at, why we are doing the IRB, the rights that are involved, those kinds of things. Then you can go up and you can click on the history, which it gives you, more in-depth history of the IRB and the importance of protecting human subjects and where that came from. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but it's a good review. Also in here then, we have the application process. So this link within the IRB website takes you through that process, and when you need to do a full review, when you need to do an exempt review, and sometimes this is confusing, so you can certainly speak to us if you're not sure. Most of the time, if your IRB is dealing with interviewing children or children in any way, you would need to do a full review. If you do an exempt review, for those of you maybe interviewing or spending time with teachers or oftentimes with families, that would be, not exempt, but expedited. That would be the second one. And oftentimes, if you do a full review, it goes to the whole IRB board, which is made up of members from the college, not just in education, but across the college. The expedited, it goes out to 3 readers, and that process of return is a little quicker than the full review. The full review, and you'll see on there deadlines. I'll show you here. It gives all the dates that the IRB committee meets, and you have to make sure that you have your IRB submitted. I believe it says it used to be 7 days before the meeting. So all of the details are in there. Just one other thing to let you know that before you can submit your IRB to the IRB committee, either Elizabeth or myself would have to sign off. So those of you in Susan's section, I would have to read and sign off, and those of you in Elizabeth's section, she would have to sign off before the IRB committee will review it. So as you'll see when we go through this process, there are a number of iterations of your IRB. So when we've listed in the coursework this week that it's a draft, we really mean a draft. You'll be going through this more than once, more than twice, probably at least 3 times, and oftentimes more. So don't get discouraged by that, because that's a very common thing. They're very particular about the language and that you use in the IRB, so we'll kind of work through that process with you. And as long as you are really familiar with the directions that are listed on this site, I think that will help you greatly. So the next page here is the IRB forms application and the different forms that you might need. And I won't go through all of that, but you can see if you're doing a full or an expedited, actually they've made some changes this year, so that looks like that is the same form, and that actually has been the case in the past. So we will let you kind of explore that on your own, and we will have a Q&A forum on the class this week for folks to post questions, and hopefully we can respond and answer, and you can respond and answer to each other as well. If you see up above here, it talks about please attend carefully to grammar, spelling, and punctuation. What they really should be looking at is the IRB confidentiality and those kinds of no harm, but they do tend to look at spelling and grammar. They are not critiquing your study itself, so you don't need to worry about that. It's just a human protections part of it. So here are all the forms. Another really good element, I think, of this site is the resources, the writing resources that this site provides. And you can see here the APA Writing Basics. Also, our library site has OWL, which helps with APA style. Quick Guide to APA. And here, right here, is a resource page to the library, APA crib sheet. These are all really useful when you do your writing, not only your IRB writing, but your writing of your full paper. Now I just lost the site here. So, okay. And then there are some links. So that's really kind of an overview of our IRB site. And so hopefully that will be helpful. And again, you will be able to ask questions on the Q&A forum. What we have said in the directions is this week you will be working on your IRB, and by the end of this week we want you to send it to the partner. It'll be the same partner that you had for your walk and talk, and again I will repost. We'll both repost our lists of who your partner was in case you forgot. And then you will give each other feedback, and then we've got the date on there where you will send your first draft of your IRB to us, and we'll put a Dropbox in for that. One really important element of this IRB process to know is that by the end of this semester, you have got to have to us a strong enough draft of your IRB that we feel like you can submit it to the IRB committee. Now you won't, some of you it'll take several drafts, so it won't be the first draft that you submitted, and people tend to work on these over the weeks, and the weeks fly by. But just so you know that before we let you go on to the next section of this research class, you have got to turn into us an IRB that's in a format that we feel it's ready to go to the committee. So it doesn't have to be approved by them, but we need to feel like you can submit it. So it's in good enough shape that you can submit it. So this is a big step in your process here, and I know there'll be a lot of questions. We always have a lot of questions, but hopefully this little orientation will help. And again, you're going through the IRB website with a fine-tooth comb will be very helpful to you. So enjoy the process. And the other thing I just want to mention, for some of you who don't feel like your focus is totally clear, oftentimes going through this questions and this IRB, writing the IRB, will help you to clarify that focus, because they'll be asking you real specific questions about how you're going to conduct data, those kinds of things. So in the past, that's one of the things that we found. So enjoy.